The lecture hall of the Galactic Concord Academy gleamed like a cathedral of glass and light. Rows of bioluminescent walls pulsed with soft color, shifting from blue to gold as translators hummed in the air. The air was sterile, almost reverent, as though the universe itself was holding its breath. The day was historic. For the first time in recorded galactic history, students from Earth, classified as a Category 9 Deathworld, had been admitted into the Concord's intercultural biology program. The galaxy called them Deathworlders not as insult, but fact. Their planet's gravity was heavy, their oceans violent, their biosphere lethal. To live there required evolution's fiercest grit. The Concord viewed humanity with the same wary admiration one might hold for lightning, mesmerizing, powerful, but best kept at a distance. And yet, today, the distance was gone. Dr. Thelin Vrakaar, a tall, thin Silithian with translucent skin and 6 delicate eyes, flexed his frilled jaw nervously as the human delegation entered. 5 of them young, confident, all in matching black academy uniforms. They looked harmless enough. Harmless. The word made Thalin's gills twitch. The humans moved as one unit, all sharp eyes and easy smiles. The lead student, a tall brunette with a calm, composed face, stepped forward. "Good morning," she said, her accent crisp but warm. "I'm Alyssa Carter, representing Earth's Terran Institute of Exobiology. We're honored to be here." The Lin inclined his head politely. "Welcome, Student Carter. Welcome, all. Today's session concerns domesticated symbiosis across sentient species. As is tradition, each participant will present an example from their world." Soft murmurs filled the room. Across the hall, students from Iroth, Kren, and Vol chirped and clicked in greeting. Their pets, bright, delicate creatures, perched obediently nearby. A Kren-esque companion shimmered like liquid crystal, emitting musical tones. An Irothian symbiote clung affectionately to its owner's throat like a living scarf. Then all eyes turned toward the humans. Alyssa smiled again, but there was a gleam in her eyes, the kind that spoke of quiet amusement, or maybe warning. "We were told to bring examples from home," she said. "So we did." She gestured toward the back door. The doors opened. And the room stopped breathing. The first thing through was small, relatively small, a golden retriever with fur like sunlight. Its nose twitched, tongue lolling, tail wagging lazily. Behind it padded a massive gray husky, then a sleek black cat whose eyes glowed like embers. The animal sniffed the air, unbothered by the alien stares. And then came the last one, a falcon, hooded, perched calmly on the arm of a boy named Marcus Hale. Every alien in the room recoiled at once. Several Irothians' color patterns flashed alarm red. The Vol, whose species had no predators, shrieked in ultrasonic panic. The falcon turned its head once, sharp, precise, predatory, and even the Lin Vrakaar felt his pulse skip. The translator field trembled with overlapping panic. "They brought hunters," someone hissed in their native tongue. "Those are carnivores, unrestrained." Asterisk. Alyssa raised a calming hand. "They're safe," she said evenly. "Trained, bonded, and loyal. We call them pets." Dr. Thalin's gills flared pale blue in disbelief. "Those are domesticated? The canine, the avian hunter?" "Correct," Alyssa replied. "They live with us. Sleep beside us. Protect us. Love us." The word love landed like a thunderclap in the alien minds. The translator rendered it as mutual devotion under voluntary trust. For species who lived by pheromonal obedience or genetic imprinting, the concept was alien devotion between predators. The Lin composed himself. "Extraordinary," he managed. "Perhaps, you might explain how this relationship was achieved?" Marcus, the boy with the falcon, grinned faintly. "By surviving each other," he said. "For a few thousand years." The dog, sensing the tension, wagged its tail and trotted toward a trembling Vol student, gently pressing its head against her hand. She froze, the creature's warmth startlingly real. Its heartbeat was strong and steady, and its eyes, they looked at her with something she didn't understand. It looked like understanding. Alyssa crouched beside the retriever. This is Cooper, she said softly. He's been with me since I was a child. On our world, life is dangerous. But that danger taught us something: cooperation. Even among predators, there can be trust. The cat leapt onto the desk, graceful and silent. The alien students leaned away instinctively as the feline settled, curling its tail like smoke. Its eyes flicked toward them with ancient indifference. The feline, the Lin said, voice tight, is a solitary killer by design. Yes, Alyssa said, almost wistfully. And yet she chooses to stay. That's what makes it beautiful. A heavy silence followed, not fear, now, but contemplation. The alien students watched, fascinated, as the humans interacted with their beasts, scratching, petting, whispering. The creatures responded with affection, not subservience. The Lin could feel a shift in the air, subtle but immense, the redefinition of a word. Domestication was no longer submission, it was coexistence. Then, suddenly, the falcon gave a sharp cry and launched into the air. Chaos rippled through the room, several species ducked instinctively, but Marcus merely lifted his arm, steady as stone. The falcon circled once, twice, then returned, landing with perfect precision. Applause, hesitant at first, then building, echoed through the hall. The sound was a universal language of awe. The Lin Vrakair felt something in his scientific composure crack. Your world must be extraordinary, he murmured. Alyssa smiled faintly. It's brutal, she said. But it taught us to make friends with the monsters. The translator hummed, trying to capture the nuance of that sentence. It couldn't. Some truths weren't linguistic, they were evolutionary. And somewhere deep in the alien ranks, a realization settled like a chill. If this was what humans called tame, what did their wild look like? The lecture ended early that day, though few remembered the lesson notes. Every student left in silence, glancing over their shoulders at the creatures lounging by their human handlers, predators who purred and wagged and waited patiently. The Lin remained alone for a long time after the humans left, staring at the claw marks on the polished floor where the falcon had landed. He whispered to himself, what kind of world raises a species that can teach killers to love? The next day, the lecture hall was quieter. The light felt dimmer, though the sun that fed the station's panels hadn't changed. Word of the Deathworlders demonstration had spread through the Concord Academy like static, whispered in corridors, argued in dormitories, analyzed in ethics seminars. They brought predators into the learning halls, some hissed. They called them companions, others marveled. They said they loved them, murmured the most unsettled of all. Dr. the Lin Vrakair had not slept. The image of that golden retriever, its tail wagging, its mouth open in a friendly pant, haunted him. His mind kept circling one impossible contradiction: how could a creature designed to kill display affection without coercion? He had seen apex predators before, in laboratories, from orbit, through containment fields. But never calm. Never gentle. And so, when he received the request the following morning, signed jointly by Alyssa Carter and the human delegation, to hold a follow-up seminar on interspecies empathy, he felt a shiver of apprehension. And curiosity, sharper still. He approved it. The second session convened in the observation dome, a wide expanse of transparent alloy overlooking the blue marble of Concord's host planet. A faint hum filled the air, containment shields and atmospheric regulators. The humans arrived again, same quiet confidence. Their animals followed, tails wagging, feathers rustling, eyes bright. Cooper the retriever trotted straight to the nearest Vel student, as if sensing who needed comforting the most. Dr. the Lin adjusted his translator node. You've requested to demonstrate empathy, he said cautiously. Please clarify your purpose. Alyssa stood in the center of the room, the retriever sitting at her feet. Yesterday, you saw that they obey us, she began. Today, I want you to see why. She knelt beside Cooper, placing her hand over his chest. This species evolved beside us, she said softly. We shared the same dangers, the same cold nights. When we hunted, they hunted with us. When we bled, they guarded us. Empathy wasn't learned, it was survival. The cat leapt onto her shoulder, balanced effortlessly. Alyssa didn't flinch. Our world never cared whether we were kind or cruel. It just tried to kill us. Everything did. So we learned to hold on to whatever loved us back. A murmur rippled through the alien students' disbelief and awe. The Lin leaned forward, unable to restrain himself. And you trust them? With no neural bindings, no pheromone contracts? Marcus Hale stepped up, the falcon perched upon his arm again. We trust them because they trust us. It's a two-way street. His tone hardened slightly. If you spend your life running from death, you learn to make friends with anything that helps you face it. As if to punctuate his words, the falcon spread its wings, immense, precise, majestic. The alien students flinched again. Its talons gleamed, wicked and perfect. Then, with startling gentleness, it tucked them away and preened Marcus's hair. The translator crackled, trying to render the emotional tone. Several alien species had no direct equivalent for affection beyond reproductive bonding. To them, this scene was incomprehensible and mesmerizing. Alyssa turned toward Dr. Lin. We'd like to invite a volunteer, she said. To experience empathy firsthand. A long silence. No one moved. Then, hesitantly, one of the Vol, a delicate amphibious being named Sereth, lifted a trembling limb. I will attempt. The retriever wagged once, as though approving. Sereth stepped forward, every movement tentative. Cooper sat down, patient and still, ice soft. Alyssa smiled encouragingly. Go ahead. Just place your hand on his head. Sereth hesitated, then reached out and flinched at the first brush of warm fur. The contact sent a flood of sensory data through her nervous system: heat, pressure, vibration, heartbeat. Her species communicated largely by touch, but this was something else. Cooper leaned forward, resting his head gently against her chest. Sereth froze. Then, unexpectedly, her translucent skin flushed a soft violet, the color of surprise and wonder. He mirrors my breathing, she whispered. He feels calm. Alyssa's voice softened. He's reading you. Matching your rhythm. That's empathy. Dr. Thalen's 6 eyes blinked in unison, each processing the moment differently. Extraordinary, he breathed. He aligns his physiology to soothe anxiety? Exactly, Alyssa said. He's sensing chemical and behavioral cues, our heart rate, our breathing, even our expression. And he responds by adjusting his own. That's what we mean by emotional intelligence. For a moment, the room was silent except for the sound of 2 hearts, 1 human, 1 Vol, beating in strange unison through the retriever's warmth. Then Sereth began to tremble, not in fear, but in something else. He trusts me, she said, her voice breaking through the translator. Without knowing what I am. Alyssa nodded. That's the point. After the session, the Lin requested a private meeting with the human students. His academic veneer was cracking, something deeper stirred beneath. They met in a smaller chamber filled with hollow diagrams of planetary ecosystems. The falcon perched on a railing, silent and watchful. The Lin folded his long arms. You must understand how difficult this is for us, he said. On most worlds, cooperation is chemically enforced. Empathy, as you describe it, is an evolutionary accident. Alyssa gave a small smile. Maybe. But sometimes accidents are the only reason we're still here. Thalen's voice dropped to a near whisper. Your world is a crucible, and yet you built companionship. That terrifies us more than your strength. Her expression softened. It terrifies us too, sometimes. He stared at her for a long time. Yesterday, I feared your pets. Today, I fear your capacity to love them. Because that means you could love anything, even us. Alyssa said nothing. The retriever rested his head on her knee, sensing her emotion. His tail thumped once against the floor. Finally, the Lin exhaled, a sound like escaping steam. Tomorrow, he said, we'll hold a symposium. I want every student to witness this empathy for themselves. That night, the human dormitory glowed with low, amber light. Alyssa sat by the window, Cooper's head on her lap. Beyond the transparent wall, the stars wheeled in cold silence. Do you think they'll ever understand? Marcus asked quietly. She stroked the dog's ears. They'll try. That's all that matters. He nodded, then looked toward the falcon perched on the sill. They're scared of what we can survive. Maybe, Alyssa said. But they should be scared of what we can feel. Outside, Concord's moon rose pale, immense, unblinking. And deep within the alien sectors of the station, whispers spread again. Not fear this time, but curiosity and a fragile, flickering respect. They had called humans Deathworlders. But now they wondered if that word meant something different. Not destroyers. Endurers. And perhaps, something even rarer. Healers. The symposium chamber was filled beyond capacity. Word had spread across the entire orbital campus. Scientists, students, ambassadors, even military observers gathered to witness what had become known, unofficially, as the empathy experiment. Dozens of species filled the rising tiers, whispering in 1,000 languages. The air shimmered with the static of translator fields, the scent of ozone, the pulse of expectation. At the center of it all stood the humans. Alyssa Carter, Marcus Hale, and their companions, the dog, the cat, the husky, and the falcon. Around them glowed containment fields tuned to maximum safety, though Alyssa had gently asked that they not be used. They need to feel unrestrained, she'd told Dr. The Lin earlier. Empathy isn't measured in cages. The Lin had almost refused. Almost. But curiosity, and something like reverence, had silenced his objections. The symposium began with Thalin's introduction. His voice trembled slightly, though he disguised it beneath academic precision. Members of the Concord, he began, what you will witness today may redefine our understanding of cognitive bonding. The Terran species have evolved not only to coexist with predators, but to befriend them. We gather not to judge, but to learn. He turned toward Alyssa. The floor is yours. Alyssa stepped forward, her presence steady, her gaze sweeping across the alien faces. Thank you, Dr. Vrakir. Yesterday, we showed you trust. Today, we'll show you what that trust is built on. She gestured to Cooper, who trotted obediently to her side. This is not obedience, she said quietly. It's choice. He stays because he wants to. Then she looked out across the sea of alien eyes. You asked how we can live on a world that wants to kill us. The answer is simple, we stopped fighting everything that scared us. We started listening. Her voice softened. Empathy isn't a weakness. It's how we survive. A murmur rippled through the room. One of the Irothian researchers raised a spindly limb. We wish to test this claim, the translator echoed. Empathy must be measurable. The Lin hesitated. Perhaps a controlled simulation. But Alyssa interrupted gently. We can do better than that. She turned toward Marcus, who nodded once and keyed a command into his wrist console. The lights dimmed. A holographic landscape bloomed around them, a reconstruction of Earth's savannas, filled with wind, grass, and distant thunder. Gasps filled the chamber. This is where it began, Alyssa said. We were prey once. Surrounded by eyes in the dark. But we learned to see through another's fear. She crouched beside Cooper and whispered something inaudible. The retriever's ears flicked. Then he trotted forward, stopping before the Irothian scientist, whose transparent skin pulsed with alarm. Cooper simply sat. The scientist stared down, shaking. He could kill me. Alyssa's voice echoed softly. He could. But he won't. Because he knows you don't mean harm. The dog yawned, resting his head on the alien's foot. A collective murmur rose through the crowd, disbelief, wonder, emotion none of their translators had words for. The Lin stepped forward, trembling now for reasons he couldn't explain. You speak of empathy as survival, he said. But what if survival demands you lose it? Alyssa looked up at him, eyes steady. Then we fight to keep it. The demonstration continued, the falcon swooping gracefully between students, landing where fear was strongest, offering calm instead of threat. the cat weaving silently through alien legs, rubbing against trembling limbs until even the most cautious of them reached down to touch. The husky lying beside a reptilian student from Vol, both breathing in sync. The atmosphere shifted from tension to quiet reverence. Translator nodes flickered, struggling to keep up with the torrent of emotional data. But empathy, as it turned out, needed no translation. Halfway through the session, something went wrong. A containment field, one meant to regulate atmosphere for the aquatic Vol students, flickered, shorted, and collapsed with a crack of static. The sudden change in pressure made several beings cry out. Panic rippled like fire through the crowd. One of the Vol collapsed, convulsing oxygen imbalance. Others surged in confusion. The security field activated, sealing the chamber. "Everyone, stay calm," the Lin shouted, his voice fracturing. Alyssa was already moving. She ripped off her breathing collar, designed for the oxygen-rich environment, and pressed it against the Vol's mouth. "He's suffocating," she yelled. "Get me a medical unit." The human's pets reacted instantly. The husky began barking, sharp and rhythmic, drawing focus. The falcon soared upward, using its wings to scatter the heavy air. Cooper nosed at the Vol's chest, sensing the shallow heartbeat. The cat perched on the alien's arm, purring, applying gentle warmth. The translators fell behind. The aliens could only watch. Within moments, the Vol's convulsions slowed. Its color stabilized, shifting from gray to pale blue. The oxygen sensor beeped, weak, but steady. The crisis passed. And when it did, the chamber was silent. Alyssa knelt on the floor, one hand on Cooper, the other still holding the breathing collar in place. Her hair was damp, her face pale. "He's stable," she whispered. The Lin approached slowly. His 6 eyes shimmered. "You risked your life." She looked up at him, exhausted. So did they. The dog whined softly beside her, pressing his nose to her cheek. Later, when calm returned, the Lin addressed the assembly again. His voice was quiet but steady, reverent. "Today," he said, "we witnessed something beyond science. Not instinct. Not programming. But a choice, from species to species, to protect what is fragile. We have called humans Deathworlders." He turned toward Alyssa, who sat beside her resting dog. "But perhaps the name no longer fits. Perhaps they are something rarer still, beings who conquered death not by force, but by compassion." The translators hummed, searching for equivalents that didn't exist. The crowd rose in silence, not applause, not ceremony, but unity. Every being present understood something new, even if they couldn't say it aloud. That night, long after the symposium ended, the Lin found himself walking the observation deck alone. Stars glimmered beyond the glass, infinite and indifferent. He heard a soft step behind him. Alyssa stood there, hands in her pockets, eyes on the stars. "I used to think," he said quietly, "that empathy was a vulnerability. That logic kept civilizations alive." She smiled faintly. "Maybe it does. But empathy makes them worth keeping." He turned to her, studying the young woman who had changed everything he thought he knew. "Will you return to Earth soon?" "Eventually," she said. "But we leave a little of ourselves wherever we go." Her dog padded up beside her, tail wagging gently. Without thinking, the Lin extended one trembling limb. Cooper sniffed it once, then licked it. The Lin froze. His gills flushed silver blue. "He accepts me?" Alyssa smiled softly. "He understands you." The alien scientist bowed his head. "Then perhaps your world isn't the death world we feared." He looked up again, eyes glinting like distant suns. "Perhaps it's the cradle of empathy itself." Outside, the stars burned cold and eternal, but somewhere between them, the faint warmth of understanding flickered into being. And for the first time in the long history of the galactic concord, the other species of the galaxy looked toward Earth, not with fear, but with hope.